Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Brendan. I'm here with John.
Hey, what's up?
Hi.
Do you know where Captain Hook got his hook?
No.
At a secondhand store.
There you go.
There you go.
Fucking nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
So sweet, man. Welcome back. What are we talking about today?
Well, I heard tell that nothing really is on the news or of any interest in anyone's uh, social media feed of late. Yeah. Um, so what do you think Joe Biden's chances of getting elected president in 2025 are?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not
What's your
what
percentage? What's your percentage?
shit, dude. Yeah. Not good.
I'd give him less than
Percentage
10% shot.
Yeah, probably less. Because I mean, obviously, it's so funny how I don't. Yeah, I'm in a state right now. I'm not sure. I tend to avoid political stuff, but as soon as Trump got shot in the fucking ear and not the head, I was like, oh my God, we're fucked. Donald Trump is going to be the next president. It's over.
Well, was it just that he got shot in the ear and not the head, or was there more to it than that? I think there was a good deal more to it than that.
Well, I mean, it's more what I see as and again, to be clear here, I tend not to watch the news very much. I don't have my finger on the pulse of what's going on. I don't pay attention to all of the ins and outs. Like I don't do an in-depth investigation. I wasn't there, all that stuff, right? So I'm going off of the little snippets that I have seen. But as soon as somebody who, many people do not like Donald Trump, and I understand why, as soon as he took one to the ear and not the head, because if it was the head, we wouldn't have to worry about Donald Trump being president, if he actually died. There's It's going to galvanize people around him. Now he's got a story. He's a hero. He's a survivor. Somebody tried to do violence on him. Everybody's going to come together around that. And when you compare that, the image of somebody who's a powerful leader, they tried to take him down and he's a survivor. And so now he's got a killer story, and that is going to give him a lot of sway in the minds of people because they will gravitate towards that story. This is just my consideration on the matter. Like there's a guy who's a gun, for example, there's a guy who's a gun YouTuber, and his handle is Kentucky Ballistics, and I've seen some of his videos. The dude he was doing slap. Do you know what slap rounds are? It's
No
like
idea.
they're like, or no, slap round, sabo. Maybe it was a round. You need to look it up. I am probably fucking it up. It's either a sabo or a slap round, but these are rounds that you don't know how much gunpowder's in there, but somebody like custom made them. And they custom made a 50 BMG. Do you know what that caliber is?
No, it's big.
A 50 cal. Like,
Yeah,
look
okay.
up 50. Like, there's the Desert Eagle. That's a 50
Yeah.
caliber bullet, but they're
I know
they're
what a 50
stubby.
cal is. Yeah.
But when you get the big ones,
They're very long.
They're very long. They were originally designed to take down surface to air, like they're anti-aircraft guns essentially. And then you see them often depicted in movies as sniper rifles, and you could use it as a sniper rifle, but I think their original intent was like, oh, we need to take down a helicopter. Here, use this. So big ass fucking bullet. And one of those guns he had, he was doing a test and it blew up in his face and fucked him up. He had to stick his thumb in his own neck to make sure he didn't bleed out, and held it in there for like hours while they got his
Okay.
ass to the emergency room. Like he had that he's an ex-cop, so he's has probably some first aid background and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and so he knew what to do, and he was able to save his own life. Now what I noticed was when that guy went through that, now he has a story and a reputation and like a whole bunch of shit coalesce around his YouTube channel because of that incident. And so I'm like, oh yeah, when somebody goes, or just think about anybody that goes through some sort of violent something and they come out the other side and they're survivor of that, you look at them differently. So there's a very powerful story now. And so as soon as that happened, and I'm like, oh fuck,
Okay.
you know, the power of that is gonna bring everybody together. And
But I think
yeah,
for me there's some important parts of the story, and they are just factual as far as I can tell, that
yeah,
are really important, that are getting left out, that are way more powerful in galvanizing people around Trump at this moment.
such as,
The way he responded, number one.
oh yeah, yeah. That's
That's
also
massive.
part of
If
the
he
story.
had stayed down and hid, if he had showed any fear or anything, but he didn't. He got up with a look on his face of pure aggression and shouted "fight, fight, fight" to the crowd there. That is much more than a cherry on top. That's like, I think that's
That's
you
the fucking
can't leave
coup
that out.
d'etat,
And
dude.
you've got the picture there with the flag behind him with his fist in the air, and all the Secret Service around him who are not doing a great job. There was a woman in front of him who was not covering him up. They're supposed to be doing, they're supposed to be meat shields. Um, and they look like the Marines in the famous depiction of the Marines with the flag, and they're trying to lift it up. The Battle of Iwo Jima, right?
I don't know, but I know the statue that you're talking about, and that image.
It literally looks like that.
Yep. You see?
That
Yeah, Biden's
that
fucked.
now, and then on top of that, you've got Biden now. Now even the many Democrats are saying we've got to get this guy out. We've got to put somebody else up there because it's very apparent that he's got some mental issues, some senility, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's just there's no way. But and then there's a third one, less obvious, a third aspect of the story that's going to galvanize people even further, and that is less obvious because you have to understand the context. I A lot of people are looking into it. They have different ideas, but Trump didn't have a full security detail. He didn't have a full security detail. According to people that do this stuff for a living, you're supposed to have more than one sniper unit. You're supposed to have all the high ground secured, and the security perimeter is far outside the event perimeter because you're really talking about ballistics and how far they can reach.
Yeah.
And the rooftop was well within range,
Oh yeah.
and it was not being secured. Now, the woman who was running that whole detail and is in charge of the Secret Service at the moment stated that it's because the roof was sloped. And we're talking about an angle like 10 degrees. The rooftop
Yeah.
was sloped. That's why there was no one up there. There should have been someone up there. And as it's getting out, it's just becoming very apparent that either through just real incompetence or worse, the security was not doing their job to prevent some 20-year-old kid who doesn't have any military experience
Yeah, clearly
from
not.
getting up that close and being able to put live rounds down range and take out someone right behind Trump and injure a couple other people. And how the hell did this happen?
Mm-hmm.
How the hell did a 20-year-old kid, and you've got a lot of people now with lots of video footage of them telling police officers, talking to people, trying to say, hey, there's the guy up on the roof minutes before anything happened.
Yeah.
And yet Secret Service wasn't there. What the hell happened? So you have this question of, okay, you see what I'm saying? It looks that whole aspect makes the current administration, whatever it is, makes them look really bad. That former President Trump, got up with his fist in the air like, uh, you know, a triumphant hero, makes it really good for him. It's galvanizing. There's a lot of people moving around him. So I think those are the other two major optics
Yeah.
of the story. It's not just that he got shot, and it's not just that Biden is looking bad in his speeches and debates.
Yeah. 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 It's, I mean, I'm sure these things are incredibly complex. There's a lot of stuff, and it's hard to sort out what's what.
But here's a question for you, because
Mm.
I've heard different things about this. I've heard different people jump to different conclusions.
Yeah.
Seemingly, maybe not jump to different conclusions, but
And
maybe jump to a conclusion, or maybe have a consideration.
I'm sure
Uh,
there's all kinds of conspiracy shit out there now. It's probably
Yeah, but
like,
leaving that aside, like I've heard some of that too. I've heard some conspiracy stuff, like Trump set it up. You got to be pretty ballsy to put a rifle in the hand of a 20-year-old
20-year-old
unstable kid.
untrained and here shoot my
Yeah,
ear. No
shoot,
fucking way.
shoot my ear. Yeah, I
No
don't think
fucking way.
that's no.
No.
So and nobody would have thought that would be Trump's style. Why did Trump get up and put his hand in the air and make sure to be seen telling the crowd to fight?
Because he understands sales.
So that's where you go. You go from the perspective of he understands sales.
Yeah, he's a businessman, and he knows. Yeah, he knows what he's doing when it comes to promoting his image.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
and I bet one thought, you know, you got Secret Service there covering him. They're all chattering on microphones probably, and he could probably hear, would be one guess, that they got that shooter down fast, like they took him out. He may have even heard, again, speculation. I have no fucking idea. I wasn't there. But if I was him with that kind of mind and that kind of self-centered, self-promotion type of mind that I see from him, as soon as you're there, oh, the shooter's down. Oh, perfect time to fucking stand up and be like, this is, oh man, perfect. Yeah. That's where
Okay.
I go right away. I bet he's real smart like that. He knows
So
what the fuck he's doing when he's come to promoting his image, and he saw an opportunity and he took it. And yep, nailed it.
so so that's the same basic thing that I listened to Sam Harris. He basically said, yeah, he had the presence of mind to recognize an opportunity for an image
Oh yeah.
enhancement,
Oh yeah.
and he took advantage of it. I listened to some other folks, Brett Weinstein and Heather Hine of the Dark Horse podcast. I didn't even listen to the whole thing, but they went a different route. They said, and they had some other information. They thought, and they don't like Trump, and they didn't like Trump, but they thought, his amygdala is firing. That dude is in fight or flight. You get shot in the ear, surrounded by Secret Service, you're in fight or flight. It's
Yeah.
hard to think tactically if you're not in those kind of situations a lot when your amygdala is firing and when you're in a fight or flight mentality. And so the way they looked at it was they had always considered Trump to be selfish, an egomaniac, kind of crazy. And the way they thought of it was Trump has been through a lot in the last few years. He's been constantly attacked, called a tyrant, called Hitler, a threat to democracy. He's been arrested. He's been through an impeachment. He's been now a felon of of holding on to some documents that Joe Biden himself has held on to documents. He's a felon too, by the same standards. He's had a lot of his money taken away. He's had, a hard time by any stretch of the imagination. If you stop to think about it, the dude has been under tremendous pressure for a long time. And their thought was, well, most of the time, if people are under tremendous pressure, it does something to the mind. Maybe it makes them fold or break or do something really stupid, or maybe they mature. And so what they held out was the possibility that Trump actually believes in what he's doing. He actually believes he is fighting for others, for the country, that he's not doing out of selfishness. He was doing it out of passion. And that would be a totally different perspective.
Passion for what?
Passion for the country, for what he believes is necessary for the country, not for himself. Yeah.
Okay.
And see, so there you go. So like, and people tend to assume, I think, something about his motives. The assumption is not what he did or didn't do. The assumption is, what are his motivations for sticking his fist in the air? And people who believe that Trump is not capable of anything except for selfishness assume that it was selfish. And people who consider the possibility that he might actually have some other kinds of motivations in there can hold the possibility that maybe he was being patriotic or passionate for something greater than himself. And everyone who sees it and holds the latter, at least as a strong possibility, when compared to him, comparing him to Trump, is to Biden, excuse me, they're gonna vote Trump.
The people that hold the ladder.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's the deal with people's motivations? What's the deal with selfishness and selflessness, and judging whether or not someone's actions are actually selfish or selfless? How do we do that? How do we not do that? Because I know someone in my own life, and I assume that just about everything that she does is selfish. But
yeah.
Am I right? Seems like it to me.
Yeah, you're right. See,
judge not, you're basically, lest ye be judged. I mean, how do we do this thing?
It's tricky. Because I don't... There's just no fucking way.
You're so incredulous. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get it. I just... I mean... like, okay. People liked Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was Hitler a good man?
Nope.
No. How do we know? Well, what he did. Now, before he did that, did people know? There were people that really wanted a strong leader. And then they got that. I don't like because basically by all stretch of the, like, when I look at Trump, I see a completely self-centered, selfish, power-hungry man. I've seen no evidence that he is other than that. And I know that
But who do you watch Trump through? Jon Stewart, CNN, and MSNBC?
You see, and the same can be said for people that watch the other side.
Yeah, but there can also be people who watch both and other things.
And
Like,
then like when you listen, when you look at the person talk, also, isn't there like some discernment of the person, sort of without the news, without this, like what's that person up to?
mm-hmm.
Like when I do that with him, I'm like, Now, and then like because people make arguments, I'm not very good at arguing stuff.
Mm,
And when I hear, say, my friends that might be that are on the right, when they make arguments, they make the same talking point arguments that they hear on fucking whatever they're listening to. They just parrot that. Now, I don't have good arguments against that, and I don't like I don't give a fuck, apparently.
mm.
Like I don't give enough of a fuck to like try to craft a goddamn argument. I go off of like my understanding of myself and people.
Mm.
And so when I look at a person, I'm like, that is not a good person. You know? Fuck ton of money. I hear stories about how he does business. Like if you look at there's complaints against him in different places. Yeah, he did this, didn't pay for it. I'm like, what the fuck kind of person does that? You know, is that true? Probably. There's inappropriateness with a woman who won a case against him because he took advantage of her sexually. It's like, what kind of person does that? Like that, like I don't did that happen? There's a court case, there's a woman who was quiet for many years. And then it came out, you know, I'm sure the media blows it up because they don't like the agenda is like anti-Trump, right? Or he's like, yeah, just grab him by the pussy, blah blah blah. It's like what kind of person says that shit who's in the public eye? Oh, he speaks his mind. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, everybody says he speaks his mind. That's the kind of shit you don't speak in public. It's like, is that the kind of person I want around? Nope, nope, nope. It's just a bunch of nope. Now, so and then I have my suspicions about people's ability to manipulate others, and I just see people following blindly. They just follow blindly. Like he's like he said shit about Mexico and the wall, like, and immigrants, and like they're drug dealers, they're bad, they're wrong, it's like, have some intelligence in your speech. But he's not taught, you know, in that case, I don't see intelligence. I don't see, he's just rah hype the people up. For what? And I'm like, is that the kind of guy in the mind that I want running the country? No. Why is he trash talking immigrant? Do we have an immigration problem? Yes, we do. Do we need to fix it? Yes, we do. Like, this is my stance. Do I want the person who's up there making people divided because he knows, again, my speculation?
Apparently, right after he got shot, in his next speech, he called for unity.
Yeah.
And non-retaliation.
Yeah, and then I watched some little snippets, right, Jon Stewart. Then they bring up the other guys that are saying unity, right? They're touting unity, but then what's the guy say? Well, it's the Democrats and blah blah blah, which is not unity. So he says unity here, he doesn't say unity here, not Trump, but somebody else. So that's a lie. Do I want a fucking liar like that?
That's I'm sorry, that's not a lie. I mean, he's talking about not taking
no,
violent
somebody
action. And of course, the Republicans, like the Democrats, they're not going to say everything nice about each other or that they agree with each other.
Yeah, but my point is the two-facedness. Or I hear tell the guy who's running with Trump, JD Vance, condemned Trump, and
yeah,
now he's
Yeah, he did.
And now he's not. Okay. Then what side are you on, bro? Do you
maybe he got to know Trump better. maybe he had an opinion and he changed his mind, or maybe he's just playing politics,
Yeah, he's playing like it's like that,
or maybe he's actually changing his mind. I mean, like,
but that kind of shit. No, not with that.
hmm,
You know, there's a certain quality, say that Bernie Sanders has that I know and trust. When that motherfucker says something, you know he stands for something because he does, and he doesn't shake from that. And now I'm not saying I agree with Bernie. Like, obviously, he didn't get voted in, and probably he has stuff that he's not good at. But my point is, I can tell. I'm circling back to my original. It's like, look at the kind of person that they are. Bernie Sanders clearly carries himself, expresses himself, and obviously stands for something, and he doesn't fuck around. He's not wishy-washy. I heard at one point Trump was Democrat.
maybe a long time ago.
See,
The
like,
Democratic Party was very different.
yeah. And so it's like this, like, where do you stand, man? And I know he's pandering to the people he's talking to. He's selling himself. I mean, is that like, and I guess every politician needs to do
We
that.
are a democracy. Like, people do get
Yeah.
voted in. They do have to be popular or not.
But my point is, like, when you look at the mind of that person, do you see a good person? Trump? Do you see that, like, do you I anyway, going off of an argument that say Peter had, it's like the sometimes the people on the right, they're like, well, they don't like the liberal elites. I've heard that.
That's true.
Now, Trump's an elite, wealthy motherfucker. And so why are, and then that's who they vote in? He is the elite. Now, on the flip side, here's an argument. Who do you want running? Like, when you go to get surgery, and again, this argument comes from somebody else, right? It's like, when you go to get surgery, who do you want? Do you want a surgeon who just kind of fucks around, or do you want the tippity top, the elite surgeon? I want the elite. I want the best of the best of the best to work on my body. Same for the country. I want the smartest motherfucker, the most strategic, the most capable, like, I want somebody way smarter than me running this country. I don't want me. I want the top. So when people say we don't want the elites in power, I say, no, we want the elites in power. Like, whoever's at the top, whoever can do it the best job.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, when I look at Trump, it's like, I don't like, there's historical evidence that when countries are divided, they tend to vote for a strong leader because they want power, strength. And anybody who fits that bill, because as a whole, as far as I can tell, people are really fucking dumb. You ever look at a mob doing stuff really stupid, they'll go for what's powerful. Now, Trump fits the bill. And I just hope that he is not, which I would not put it past him at all, just my opinion, that he would manipulate stupider people to vote for him because he talks their language, he speaks his mind, he uses unsophisticated words.
But
people get behind it. Right. Once he gets power, then you'll find out.
Well,
and I hope I'm wrong.
First time. What did we find out the first time?
That he didn't have all his ducks in a row.
No. Like, what was the effect on the country of Trump being voted into office?
I think rich people got richer. And then he did do some other stuff, but I do know for a fact that people who were in higher tax brackets made a lot of money because he lowered taxes for the rich. Everything else sort of proceeded as normal, and then there was back and forth, and so thankfully stuff didn't fall apart because of the rules that were in place with our democracy. I suspect that, anyway, my suspicion is that I suspect that he is playing to people to get power, and once he gets it, and if he can actually really wield it, I don't see good things. Now, I hope to fuck I'm wrong.
I hope you are. let's make a bet. Let's make a bet.
Okay.
I'll bet you you're wrong. I'll bet you if Trump gets into office,
Yeah.
the net effect for the United States will be positive economically, and that there will be less war, not more, barring some fucked up external event that's really unavoidable, like COVID or an attack, like a foreign attack
Right.
on U.S. soil or something like that. Trump didn't start any new wars. That can't be said for any other U.S. president in recent memory.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the way immigrants were actually treated, illegal immigrants were actually treated, Obama was deporting people under worse and harsher conditions than Trump.
Yeah.
So I don't, one of the things that I think is important is that Trump, and like all presidents, they're the executive branch. They have actually a lot of checks on their power domestically. There's a lot of checks on the power of the president domestically. They enforce the laws, and they do so through many agencies, and those agencies have administrations, and those administrations are entrenched. And I think where the president's power is strongest is probably internationally.
Yeah.
I think it's probably on the world stage more than at home. I think the big thing about Trump being in office is that it'll get a new conservative, and it is a new conservative, a new Republican administration. Like if you looked at the Republicans of today are not the Republicans of 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And like they're much more diverse in basically every way. And they have, but they are unified to some extent by certain ideas. And I think it would get that. I think the main thing would be that it would get his administration into office, and you'd have people like Vivek Ramaswamy and the coming vice president in office, and it would create like a new guard, and it would be people who are
Guard.
very
What do you mean a guard?
a new guard, a new government, and
Oh,
people
you
that
mean,
at least
yeah.
what they're saying is they want to dismantle a lot of the administrative state.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people want that.
Yeah.
They want that a lot.
Why?
Because they don't trust it.
Yeah.
They don't trust the media. They don't trust the FBI. They don't trust the
And
CIA.
why don't they trust the FBI and the media and all that stuff?
I mean, you want to.
I think
How
because
much time do you got?
well, I think because people started promoting distrusting the media.
Really?
Yeah, like Trump get into office, it's fake news.
Sam Harris said that too. He said Sam Harris said that Trump promotes conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of reasons to believe in a lot of conspiracy and ineptitude in the current state of affairs. You don't think so?
No, I mean,
and that's been the case for a long time.
Yeah, I just like God damn it. You see, this is where I'm uninformed again, but I heard tell if you look up apparently I need help here. Look the shit up. I'm a lazy fuck.
And write it in the comments.
Write it in the comments. Put lots of comments since we're talking political shit, which Newt Gingrich apparently before him Republicans and Democrats got along. Now here's another consideration that I heard. One of the things that you didn't have back in the day was multiple platforms with lots of people's attention on different platforms. You had one source of news and that
Yeah.
was it. So I bet I would, just from a more more neutral perspective, just the fact that there are different, like if you want to get, the internet is around. If you want to hang out with furries and just hear everything about furries and not, do you know what furries are? Furries are people that dress up like
No, no,
animals.
no,
Okay,
no.
and
If you know what furries are, write it in the comments.
yes, thank you. If you know what a furry
tell
is,
tell us about your experience hanging out with them.
which I got no problems with people that want to do that. My point is, that's just the first thing that came to mind. My point is that you can do that, whereas you could not do that before. But now we've got the internet. You can have an echo chamber that is all about your world, and it's also extremely insulated. And you did not have that before. So I bet there is the consequence of, now you can have whole groups of people can find each other online. They can have their own world, and it can build up to such a degree that, like, the mind is so powerful, as we know, that it can influence what you see, which is, I'm sure, part of what you are getting at when you're talking to me.
Not everyone does that. And like, I've literally tried, and I can go try some more. I haven't tried today. But I've tried to find liberal outlets who are talking about this, the assassination attempt, and it's hard to find. They're not saying very much about it compared to the conservative side.
Yeah, and I bet, see, in my mind, the conservative side, they're gonna talk it up because that's like the biggest thing for their guy.
Right, but it's also that they're not talking about it on the liberal news media is also indicative of something. And not everybody just listens to one side. Not everybody does that, and it takes more energy to try to listen to other perspectives.
Right. I think, like, a bit. Let's see. What I was saying with that is, because of these differences, it's now becoming very complex and very hard to pin down facts, as far as I can tell. So, that was an aside because I went down a road. My previous road was, Republicans and Democrats used to work together. Yes, they had differing views and differing opinions, and they would go back and forth, but then eventually they'd come to a compromise and, like, okay, we're going to do this. And everybody was like, yes, we'll do this. I'm like, great, we're united. And apparently around Newt Gingrich's time, this is when things started to change, and there was a push toward, one of the strategies that I've heard is that the Republicans will accuse the Democrats of doing stuff that they themselves do, and say it over and over and over again. And because they can say it over and over and over again, eventually people just believe it. And it's a blatant lie.
That's literally what I think a lot of people think about the Democrats.
Precisely. I wonder why.
Mirror image.
Why do they think? Because that's what people are saying.
So there's two possibilities. Let's take it like in these very broad brushstrokes.
Yeah.
Either one's lying, or the other's lying, or they're both lying.
Okay.
Well, all we know is that they're not both telling the truth.
Right. So then, what's the truth?
My thought in general is that the majority of people who are in the administrative state, who are in the bureaucracy, who are not getting voted for.
You mean because they're getting appointed jobs?
They're getting appointed jobs, and they pretty much stay in those things. They don't have the same checks and balances on their behavior. And then Congress and the Senate, they have a lot of incentives to sell out.
Yeah.
Because they create the regulations around every industry that exists.
Yeah.
And so
I bet
there's tremendous profit to be had.
I bet there's a lot that, yes, I think you and I are in agreement. I'm assuming we are. I bet a lot of the fucking hanky panky going on is with lobbyists
Hmm.
and those
And there's
rule
also
makers,
tremendous
and
profits to
a
be had
company
in.
could come in and be like, hey, if we slip the right person a bunch of money, oh, your wife got a brand new car.
Yeah,
If you just change that law, that'd be great. And the law changes or whatever. I bet there's a bunch of that. And
I think
I'm
I
not in
think
agreement with
that
that.
in combination with um, warmongering and war profiteering,
Yep.
in combination with media that is privatized and functions off of ratings, gets
Right.
money based on
Hang on.
ratings.
Yeah. I've got to piss like a motherfucker. I'll be
Okay.
right back. I'll be right back. I'm joking.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, now that Brendan's gone, I can tell you what I really think.
Okay. Warmongering, profiteering.
Yeah, it's all fucked. So all I'm trying to say is I think that it's the idea of actually clearing all that up with one administration under anybody's watch, existing within that system, doesn't carry a lot of probability.
Yeah. Because
But
it's a massive machine. It's complex. It's way too complex. And
but I think it could be made better with people who have the intention of disassembling large portions of it that seem rotten, and uh, and that wouldn't happen under a liberal. It's not going to happen under a democratic administration. There's no way in hell. The Democrats will not do that. Most of the Republicans wouldn't do that either. But someone like Trump, someone like Vivek Ramaswamy, some of these other kind of conservatives, that's what at
that's
least
what
part of
Trump
their
ran on
platform
when
is
he did
about.
it first. Yeah. I'm going to drain the swamp.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
think
don't,
that's what the
I don't know that actually happened. I don't think so.
and I don't think that it could completely happen. In fact, I think every president overpromises because they don't have as much domestic power as they portray themselves to have, because that power actually it belongs more to the Senate,
Like,
the House, and all the various administrations that they create. That's
yeah.
where the power of law actually resides, and that's not the president's job. The president has some control over that, but primarily he's an enforcer.
Yeah. So now what would, because I was thinking out there. Yeah. And let's, fucking fix it now.
Okay.
Hypothetically.
Okay.
Let's solve for,
Let's do it. Let's
but
you and me start our platform. Here's the revolution happening now.
that's right. Two sides united.
All right.
Fucking vote Brendan and John 20,
48.
2048. Give it 20 years if we're still around, if the country's still here. 2048. Brendan and John, presidents, co-presidents. Because here, okay, I also do believe that the United States has a lot of great qualities because I have been to other countries. And if you want to try, like, sometimes people are like, oh, the US, blah, 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 blah. And they say the US is shitty. I would invite you to please go travel to some other countries, try to get some shit done, see how things are run, see if you like it. Now, I think there's positives and negatives to every country. Like, for example, you know, Japan's got some really nice fucking trains. Europe's got a great train system. That might be nice to have over here. Let's do that. Japan keeps their shit clean. We don't keep our shit clean. Let's not do that. Um, let's see. Europe If you want to get fixed up in Europe, you go to the doctor, you've got it covered. Great. Now,
I
you see,
have some different opinions about that, my friend.
okay.
But okay.
But then there's a money problem to solve, and then
There's
higher.
a
But then
quality problem.
there's also that.
Free
And there's-
healthcare does not equal good healthcare.
See, and we should have free and or very low cost healthcare, but excellent quality. So let's have some of that. Anyway, I'm just saying that there's different qualities that are good. And if you want to badmouth the US, please go travel to other countries first and go travel to some third world countries and you tell me what you think of the US after that. Now, all right, but problems in the US. We're divided. I think us being united would be better.
Where's the division?
In the minds of the people, it seems like we are not all aligned under one. It's left versus right. It's
Where geographically is the division? Geographically. It's very clear.
I think it might be cities versus country.
Exactly.
Rural versus.
It's precisely that. State by state, cities vote blue. You get out of the cities, people vote red.
Unless you're in Dallas. Pretty sure
Maybe
Dallas is red.
There might be a few cities that are exceptions, and there might be a few areas in the countryside that are an exception, but that's a hard rule that's nearly always followed.
So now, yeah, so that's the current state. And now what is it? What are the division in reality is in the minds of the people?
Yeah, so what's in the minds of the people?
Exactly. Don't know. So I think what would solve for that is we need rigorous truth telling. All news media outlets need to somehow, and I don't know how the fuck we would do this. We need factual information that we can all agree that's the fact.
I think before facts, you have something that's shaping the way the inevitable interpretation of those facts will arise, and that's context. And context for how people hold facts is all important. If you look at the United States as a continent that was stolen by white people,
Yeah.
whom enslaved black people and took advantage of brown people to set up a government that served their own interests at the exclusion of everyone else.
Yeah.
And created a privileged class primarily for white heterosexual Christian men.
Yeah.
And you want to dismantle that, and you're looking at everything you see through that perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, and let's add on cisgender. Yeah, people who identify.
Sorry, I was just checking the weather.
You add that?
Yeah.
If you add that and you have that as your perspective about how the world works and how America has worked, then everything that you see is going to be through a different perspective, a radically different perspective.
Yep.
Than if you look at the United States as created by an imperfect society that had its flaws and its merits.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you have two vastly different narratives
we're fucked
in the United States.
Yeah. Now the truth is, both are stories and both are perspectives.
And which ones are more useful and more healthy?
We don't think like that. I don't think.
Well, you and I are trying to create a long-term plan here for 2048.
Yeah, I think I just gave up as soon as you started. As soon as you started talking like that, I'm like, oh, yes. You see, we have to relate to the reality of the situation, which is if somebody has a story about the way the world works and the way the country works and what the country's founded on. And so then it is that's beliefs and values.
Hmm.
So then,
But
and
I think we
because of
have a
that,
huge advantage, Brendan. I think it's going to even out for a very, very simple, practical reason.
what's that?
That first story that I was telling, I didn't get to finish the second, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The first story I told was primarily held by people who don't have kids. They just don't have kids at the same rate that people who don't hold to that story, and that's true.
Oh, really?
And oh yeah,
Find it.
and
Tell us in the comments. Let's see
find
the.
it, tell us in the comments. No, it's true. People in the country have more kids than people in the city, period. And conservatives tend to have more, and a lot of,
Oh, I wonder if that.
especially the really green, environmentally oriented hippie folks, they have fewer kids. So on average,
So this is
So
okay. So you're saying that that because people don't have kids, they think in these other ways, like
no,
just
I'm not saying that.
practically
I'm not
speaking.
saying that. No, I'm saying that because they think in those ways, they don't have kids.
Oh,
And that
because they
means
think in those ways, they
because
do
they think
not
in those,
have kids.
yeah, if you hate everything about your own
Oh yeah,
culture and
you
identity,
you don't want to raise a
propagate
kid
that.
in it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
you don't want to promote that, so you don't have a kid.
Right.
So the fact is that the people who believe those kind of things, they're going to die off.
Yep.
They're just going to
It's like
die off. It's
it'll
going to
be like idiocracy.
Well, that's what they think, except for a lot of those conservatives who don't think the way they are, or at least as smart as they are, and just as well educated. They don't believe the same thing,
Yeah.
but that
So
doesn't mean they're
then
dumber.
no.
So
Um
in 20 years, it might just smooth out. I think it'll take longer than
Oh,
that.
I see that. Okay, now I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It might be a lot easier. There might be more unity because everyone else is believing the other stuff is old or dead.
It's true. That's true if they're not having kids. Fuck. Okay, so that's where we're headed. We'll have more unity that way. Now, how do we I think things that would help I think things that would help empower our culture. I still stand by somehow truth in media. If there's going to
Yep.
be consumed news, it needs to be rigorously checked like science. You can't fuck with that because then it's too easy for anybody to say whatever and people can believe whatever they want and then they'll take it on faith that that's the truth. And so there's a lack of we need truth in media, and also critical thinking skills need to be taught across the board. Now we could educate people. Okay, we are way in ideal land. Like what this would take would be like several generations of teaching people that, hey, look, when
we need re-education camps where we take people against their will and force them to learn how to think like we do.
That's right.
Everything will be fine.
Or how about we just invite people to think?
Isn't that what we try to do on these podcasts?
Yeah, we're working on it. I don't know how it's going today, but fuck, bro. So anyway, yeah, total. I am clear this is a total fantasy, but I think we need truth in media, at least, or maybe, hey, we've got, or at least balanced. We've got this perspective, and then they go, now what's the truth? What actually happened? What's here? We don't have that. We have opinionated news. It's always going in a direction. It's not reporting facts. Like the fact is, there was a shooter on a roof. There was a shot fired. Trump injured his ear. Somebody died. Somebody else got injured. They ended up in the hospital with this kind of injury. See, that's very different. That's like the facts, as to my knowledge. The shooter was shot by a sniper. He is dead.
But you also have things like, you see the picture of Trump. You can see the stories told, not just Trump, anybody.
Yeah.
You see the
Like
pictures,
unbiased news.
well, yeah, that's hard to do. So like
Yeah.
a picture of Trump in one moment during that whole scene
Tells a story.
could show him triumphantly raising his fist, or it could show him like looking down to the ground trying to get down.
Right. And they tell
And
two
that's
totally different stories.
Two different stories.
Sure. So, and then yeah, so we have a challenge there. I think maybe a push in that direction would be good. No more lying on news. If you're caught in a lie, no. You lose credibility. No. It has to be a huge push. And now how do you hold people accountable? That would be another thing to solve for. We need accountability and responsibility. But
at the beginning of every newscast by law, and if you don't follow this law, there's severe penalties.
Yeah.
There are penalties to the president of the news organization or whatever. You have to do a redaction.
Yeah.
You
something.
have to, and not like a little, but like a whole section, like, here's what we fucked up last time.
Yeah.
All right. And you open with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Make a correction. Great. I'm in support
and the corrections are required. And if it comes to light that you knew and you didn't do it, there will be heavy fines or people get fired. If it's bad enough, it could be even worse. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, like that. So now we're talking about people that are putting stuff out there for others that are held to a high standard, and But
then you have to have what we're talking about is ethics. What we're talking about is integrity, and on a cultural level.
Yeah, which we don't have anymore. I don't think. Not the same way that I hear stories of the guys
in Legends,
right? The Greatest Generation.
Make America Great Again.
Or Camelot.
That's what they're talking about. That's what they're talking about. No, that's what they're talking about. It's the mythology. The MAGA people are talking. Make America Great Again is literally, I think, in the minds of most Americans who believe that, they are thinking that there was a time when most Americans were honest.
Yeah.
When most people had integrity. When most people treated each other decently. They're thinking like that.
I thought of a jab right away. It's like, what were Trump supporters doing on January 6th? Chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Yep. Where's your decency now? That's not decent.
On that note, I need to fill my water bottle.
Okay.
Did you tell them the secrets and get everyone enlightened while I was away?
Yes. I didn't say shit, which is exactly what I should have done. No, so anyway, my jab aside, yeah, and then also there is that, I think probably there's the ideals like the Camelot.
Brennan.
Yeah.
We must get people, just everyone in kindergarten and grade school, middle school.
It starts young. If if this would actually work, yeah.
And university, we need to start with the educators. This is a problem that's developed over a very long time. It's going to take a long time to solve. Yeah. Educators need to be people of integrity.
Yeah.
Who have a lot of critical thinking ability.
Yep. And smart. Excellent.
Few enlightenment experiences.
That'd help.
And then we get more and more of that culture into the education system and into the university system, so that because I honestly think that that's what's happened with, the reason for a great deal of the division in the United States is because so much of that, so much of the division comes from people being educated one way or another.
Yeah, and like that makes me think of a story. I may have told you this, but and it's the shit starts young. Oh, and it's even worse because the kids have parents. Fuck. And what do you do when a parent is like off their rocker? The kid's gonna get raised up in a weird place. Anyway, like I was sitting out front of the bakery where I used to work way back in Bristol in Vermont, and I was sitting there with the boss, and we were talking, and then there was a 13-year-old like young girl next to us, and we were somehow talking about politics, and then she pipes up with her little girl voice, and I don't know, it was whoever I don't know who was running at the time, but she straight up said, like, she's like a 10-year-old, she's like, no, we shouldn't vote for him because my dad said he's going to turn us all into faggots.
Perfect.
And, and we looked at each other and we're like, the what? There's your problem, right? There's a problem. Like, yeah, education starts young. And if a like that's what that little girl, she doesn't know any better. You can't like hold her accountable because obviously she got that from her parents. It's like that's how we learn when we're young. So you just believe that's the right thing. It's like, holy fuck nuts.
And teaching people to think critically is, I can attest, not easy.
No.
And man, it's not easy at all. And but I think that's where it is. I think teaching people to believe stuff is much easier.
Oh yeah. No,
easier.
yeah.
It's
it's
much easier to teach a narrative like like what is the United States? What does it mean? I mean the story that I was talking about,
sorry,
the
I'm
1619
something else.
Version of the United States, that it's a place that was created for white male privilege, white male Christian heterosexual privilege, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That's an easy thing to just say this is what it is, and then you can look at examples of when whites, men, and so forth.
Well, and because the power the power of the mind, like once the narrative is in place, you start to view reality in relationship to that, and you don't even know that you're filtering reality through that. And it's like that the mind will do that. Like you, and I bet it's the same thing. Like I buy a Hyundai. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing Hyundais everywhere. Why? Were there any more or less Hyundais? No, but because my mind is wired up to see it, I'll start seeing it. And maybe if people knew that about their own minds from an early age, cool. Maybe if all parents had an understanding
of that. If there were more parents who raised
now we're talking about
their children and their hypothetical children to value integrity and honesty and honor and critical thinking, like maybe someone who might be a good dad or mom.
Well, like you?
Somebody who's not already doing it.
Oh, you talking? You're not talking.
How come all my smart friends aren't having kids? We need good kids.
Only if we care to continue having good people.
And yes, and we do.
Well. That's coming.
I sit corrected.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I have thought about that. It's like, yeah, I should contribute. Or no, not I should. But I'm like, oh yeah. I'd probably be good if I had kids.
Think about the whole project.
Yeah, I mean if I cared that much about that. Instead I have lots of kids. Every year.
Yeah, you do.
They do workshops. They're apprentices. They study. Come do a workshop.
Let Brendan be your daddy.
Holy
workshop. Grandpa Peter.
Oh man, yeah, Daddy Brendan and Grandpa Pete, Grandpa
Yeah.
Ralston, Grandpa
Uh-huh.
Ralston. Fuck, dude. Yeah, no, it's literally like that. I do notice these tendencies. I mean, you're in an intense environment. It's like the parental role becomes attributed to the authority somehow. Like, and how I
Oh, it's
relate to
natural.
parents.
Well,
Yeah,
what's
it's
the
like,
fundamental, what's the first authority that any human being
yeah,
experiences in their
parents for
life?
sure. It's a big,
Yeah.
big influence. But anyway, back to so
Saving the world,
save the world. So we need massive overhaul in education,
which
cultural.
will help which would help the news media and government, which would
Right,
help.
because then if you imagine if you had a lot of people in politics that were committed to selflessness, excellence, integrity, honesty, effectiveness, clarity, intelligence, yeah,
Honor.
honor. They also knew how to fight and were incredibly strategic, ridiculously smart, and could never be bought.
Buddhist Spartans.
There you go. Yeah. I would want somebody who you know could never be bought, could never be influenced by money and power like that.
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and then so we hear stories like you've heard the story of George Washington, how he gave up the power. He was not the first guy. Cincinnatus, he got it from a fucking Roman guy. So like we
And other
could,
people have done it before.
yeah, I'm sure
Sure.
others. It's like that's what I've heard of, you know.
Hmm.
Cincinnatus, the oldest one. So like there's an ideal image. Now, do we have that? No. Could we? Sure. Will we? Nah. Because people are wired up for their own self-gain. But that's another story. Okay. Another thought is I think we need to fix the fucking lobbying problem. There's too much money being you can dump money into a lobbyist and a lobbyist can affect political change. No more. We need to fucking rip that off. And if you're going to be in politics, I think transparency of money and where it's going needs to be like a law. You cannot fuck around with, because there's money going, changing hands. We don't know what it's doing. And if we did, we probably would think of that person. Wait a minute. These people who are destroying the environment just gave a bunch of money to this guy who's in charge of these laws for those things. No, you don't get power. Like you're going to be a president, you get a meager paycheck, you don't, and you can know, like, you can't use your presidency for personal gain after the fact, just by law. So you're actually serving the people, not you. Something in that direction.
I don't know if I can be your VP. I think it might not work out.
Well, it's maybe we just take VP out. It's co-presidents.
No, neither that. I don't know. Because
I'm just saying, like the
I
get
just
money
want to.
out of politics thing. It's too.
I want to take everything. I know this is not reasonable. This would cause such chaos. You can't actually do this to the extent that I'm talking about, but
Yeah,
if it
we
were
are way
possible,
off
or
in La La Land right
to
now.
the extent that it was possible, I want to take out the FBI, the CIA, every administrative body, every bureaucratic body,
Yeah.
every council, every committee, everyone that's been appointed, and fire all of them. And the
Okay.
only ones that are left are Congress, Senate, Supreme Court, the president, vice president, and his or her cabinet. And that's it.
And then what?
No, and then you make a law. You have the law is no longer can administrative bodies write regulations. The government officials, the congressmen or the senators, they have to write the law and they have to do it themselves. They can't have anyone else do it for them. They have to do it.
Yeah.
You can't outsource lawmaking power. It stays with Congress. It stays with Senate. Drastically cut the government government
Spending.
spending.
Yeah.
Give the power back to the states. Let local communities handle their shit. Trust people more. Cut down the power of the feds. I think the
So
federal
that's a
government.
conservative. Now, one big
I
problem.
believe
Do
in.
we have
I believe
military
in.
anymore? Because we need a military.
We need military, and the military reports to the president
Yeah.
and to the Secretary of Defense. That's what they're for. So the military generals would be talking to the president and the Secretary of Defense.
Okay. And then who's in charge of the clandestine shit? Because you just got rid of the CIA and the FBI. I'm thinking.
We need to start over. Our clandestine shit is fucked. My grandfather worked for the FBI. By the time he finished, he told me it was fucked. He said that it was corrupt. And he worked for them for his whole life after he got out of serving in the Navy.
Yeah.
And he believes that they are deeply compromised
By
various interests, not of this country's not they're
who?
not
The
serving the
Russians, the
American
Chinese?
people.
What can you say?
I don't want to go into it.
Okay. Yeah.
But my point is, I think we didn't start the country with the FBI. We didn't start the country with the CIA. We didn't start the country with all that shit. The military can do that. The military has intelligence.
I hope so.
They do. They actually do. It's not a hope so. They have it.
No, I mean, I just hope it works, because I just saying, like there was, I'm pretty sure before September 11th, there were people saying, hey, there's some problems here. And then they weren't listened to. And because they weren't listened to, we have problems.
Yeah.
Like, we want shit that works.
The Patriot Act got written, and it's incredibly long, and it allows for the federal government to arrest people without charges and then detain them indefinitely.
Yeah.
I don't think I think that checks and balances are extremely important.
Yeah.
Our talk about trying to encourage people to be conscious and to live by principles is wonderful, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And we can do that in our own ways, in our own small ways, in our own personal lives and in our professional lives. We don't have to wait for any hypothetical situation. And at the same time, we need to recognize human tendency towards power and how it corrupts us. The reason for the creation of the United States government, the way it was set up, was because they recognized that checks and balances between the different aspects of governing were necessary to help, not sufficient, but would help prevent tyranny.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be re-looked at. We've gotten too bloated, too fat. The federal government is far bigger than it used to be, and it's and the media is entrenched with it. The media is like another branch of the government, clearly. And then you have all these other great big bodies of government. It's not what it was intended to be.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have far more people too.
There is that.
And a lot of land mass, and a lot of large land mass to cover. So there's that stuff. Some other things. I think we could clean up our tax, like how we do taxes. Let's simplify that way down.
Get rid of free healthcare. That's not going to happen. The people here in Europe have a lot of free shit, but they have taxes up the ass.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so there
and a lot of that free shit is not a very good quality.
Yeah, no, I'm saying my point was, it's like it's hard to pay taxes. Let's make it easy for that to happen. I heard that in Iceland, people enjoy paying taxes. It's fucking simple. You come here,
it's even fun.
Like, yeah, it's like all this shit that you gotta go. It's like nobody understands it. We're just paying. Like let's that could get overhauled. I think that, for example, and this may sound harsh, but one thought that I think that is, like, I hear we subsidize milk. There's like billions of dollars that go to dairy farmers for milk, and if they don't produce X gallons of milk, they don't get the same money next year and their livelihood is dependent on that. So I'm like, let's stop bleeding money out to all these different places that I don't think we need to bleed money. Now it might sound harsh, but it's like, dude, if the people don't want milk, we don't need to be paying, like my tax dollars don't need to be going to pay for milk that's going to get dumped out. If,
Sound like a libertarian, Brendan.
I know,
Sound
you
like a
see, like these
libertarian.
weird values I have. So my point is, I'm sure there's other stuff like that. Like the money needs to get cleaned up. Like I've heard that in the military, you could get a pencil for like $50 or like something insane. Like the way the money works and the way it works, there are massive amounts of money changing hands when they don't need to be.
Yeah.
Like, and
But I think,
that's all messy.
yeah, I think there's problems when you privatize certain things, but there are also problems when you put things in control of the people who have the control of the most of the guns, because when the people who have a monopoly on force are not incentivized to make you like them or their service. They're not incentivized to be efficient.
Right. See, so again, what it comes back to when we're talking like this, for me, it comes back down to principles like, again, honor, integrity, excellence, efficiency. Like as much as I'm not, I don't care about Elon Musk's politics, but when I hear about how he ran SpaceX or when they're trying to develop rockets, for example, I really appreciate that. He's like, yeah, cut everything back, cut it down, cut it down, cut it down, make it the most efficient. Like he said, for example, like he got a machine one time. He's like, why is production on these cars? Why is production so slow on these cars? And he found the fucking guy who was running the machine that did these things. He's like, okay, what's the deal? He's like, well, they can only put, bolts in, 6 bolts per hour, whatever. Like it put bolts in. He's like, no, that's bullshit. Make it faster. He's like, I can't make it faster. He's like, bullshit. Find out what the problem is. So the guy like ripped the machine apart or like figured it out. And eventually it was something like the machine came factory set to only do 20% of its capacity speed wise.
Oh,
And they said, you
okay.
just can't change it. You just can't. You can't do it. And he's like, fuck that. You can't do it. Change it. And so he ramped it up and like, there you go, the production. But it's like that kind of thinking that says this is the limitation and then just buying it. No, wrong thinking.
Right.
What is the actual limitation of this machine? I don't buy all these rules that come from the factory. You shouldn't change it, blah, blah, blah. He said, fuck that, change it. And boom, now it's working better. That commitment to excellence, that commitment to figuring shit out. Is it harsh at times? Like, is the dude a nuts in certain ways? Yeah, looks like he's nuts. I'm taking that off the table. It's the let's make shit work better thought. Let's make shit work effectively thought. Imagine if we were all on that board. Cool. So then it comes down back way, way down to principles. That seems to be the answer because the complexities of all of these different factions and people with money and power, it's like, I can't solve for all that. That's like too much micromanaging, but something that might work: integrity, excellence, principles by which we live, and then you do whatever you want. But within that, that seems to be a more powerful, healthy, happy, effective, free environment. And then we can accomplish whatever within that. But so, I mean, that to me, that's a solution. Like what would actually work? Something along those lines. And then again, then it comes down to education. And then systems of education that teach stuff like that, that is powerful.
What we need is like, we need to get started somewhere. What we need is like I don't know, like a school where people could go from almost anywhere in the world and they could come and they could learn how to follow principles, how to understand.
If only. there's
things
a
on a
place like
deeper,
that.
more fundamental level.
Yeah.
Maybe even the essence of what things really are.
Yeah, like the nature of reality. If I wish, yeah,
If there was only something like that,
yeah,
that someone could just maybe come to
come
once a year or several times a year and
really
really
get that
study,
knowledge.
connect with other people who do that same kind of work,
Yeah,
value those same kind of things.
yeah,
Man, someone should really do that. Should really create something like that.
you're
What would we
damn
call
right.
it?
What would we call that?
Put your answer in the comments.
In the comments. Yeah, yeah. And I think that would handle a lot of that other stuff. But then what runs counter to that is our normal tendency as humans, which is self-centered action. And what I mean
Well,
by that is because we are selves and we are in support of ourselves, we want to survive, to live. And whatever that force, whatever that gets applied to, whether you're on the left, you're on the right, whether you're religious, whether you're a scientist, if you're a scientist, you are strongly a scientist and you will think and perceive and the world will be that. Because your self will be identified. Well, you know these things. Your self gets identified with shit. And you become that and cling to it.
my girlfriend, she asks me if I ever get afraid or angry or nervous or selfish, and I say, like, do you have emotions? She asks. I say, yeah, I feel logic and enthusiasm. That's it.
That's what she has?
No, that's what I have. That's what I tell her.
Yeah.
I do. I feel things all the time, babe. I just feel logic and enthusiasm and optimism.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it. Those are the only ones. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, we're trying to solve the world's problems and we're failing.
I don't know. I think
And
we're
or-
failing. We're failing forward, Brendan. We're failing forward.
Or that is, you see, there's a perspective, although perhaps just in the act of us producing this, some ideas are getting out there. So we are in service of that in that sense.
Yeah.
So, but man, fucking, I don't know, dude. Politics, this country, oh, fucking, I don't know. Oh,
come
God.
over to France. It's just as fucked up here, dude.
Yeah, or go to Hungary. Or Venezuela, or
Yeah, go to some
God damn.
other country.
Yeah.
Okay. So, want to see my kid
Oh yeah. Let's
Knock
do the
it.
thing.
his head knocked off?
Should we close this off? Yeah, we'll close this down.
I believe so.
News. I'm coming to Europe. Come to a workshop in Holland, August 16th through 29th, I believe, 30th. Go to my website, check it out. I'll be in Swales. I'll be in Swansea, Wales. If you want to come to the fall retreat, come to the fall retreat. Peter is working on a new book, Ending Suffering, which I think this book will revolutionize the psychology world if it gets out there. But I think it'd be a real, like, hey, you know all the like psychological problems you got? Let's just handle that shit in a very practical way fast. But that's coming out next March, I believe. So check that out. Well, you actually won't be able to check it out, but just know that that's happening. Other news. We're doing good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Till
Keep it
next
up,
time.
everyone. Good job.
Yep. Kick ass. Be honest. Come to a workshop. Bye.